What's up, guys? It's Damp, and as most of you know who watch the stream, have been playing a lot of World of Tanks lately. I will tell you, I'm still under like 5,000 battles, and I still feel like I'm learning every day. But I wanted to do like a few more videos because I've been getting some feedback that actually the videos on the countries to play when you're a beginner were really helpful. So the point of these videos aren't really to explain that I'm really good at the game because I'm not. I'm still learning a ton of the mechanics, but I think these would help you from some of the mistakes I've made and some of the money I've spent to be able to help you all hopefully be a little bit better. So I wanted to talk to you today about premium tanks. So if I was to look at all the countries and all the premium tanks I have currently, I have quite a few. And like you can see all of them, I'll kind of break them all out in everything you see here in gold is broken out that is a premium tank that I have outside of the Tog, which was a rental that I got yesterday. Um, so I've kind of gone across quite a few different countries, and um, what it would tell you is for newer players, which is really what this is centered around, I think I found a few that would help you guys. So in my last video, if you've watched it on what country to start with, this is like what premium I would recommend you start with. So if you followed my video and you're starting like with the Russian heavy line, um, so if we look down the line, the Russian heavies, I really don't have a ton of them because I play typically Americans more than anything, which is really complex. And I wouldn't necessarily, I don't want to say complex, but I think they're fairly advanced for newer players. So I wouldn't recommend the American heavy line for starters. But if you start with the Russian heavy line, the Russian premiums, the Churchill 3 and the IS-6 are really your two options for heavy tanks. So why do I recommend heavy tanks? So the first thing is I'm going to recommend the heavy tanks because I think they're a little more forgiving with a little more HP, and especially if you're playing the Russians, they have a little more armor. Not all the way across, but generally speaking, they have a little more armor, and I think they're better at brawling, which is how you're gonna try and play the game anyway when you first start. So your two options really for heavy premiums are the Churchill 3 and the IS-6. So I'm not going to recommend the IS-6 to a newer player, and really to recommend the Tier 5 Churchill, I really don't want to recommend that yet. But as you begin to get comfortable with the game and you're debating on buying a premium, I wanted to kind of tell you why you'd buy it and then which one to start with if you do decide you want to get it. So the main reason you're going to buy a premium tank is going to be to either level crew or get credits. Credits becomes a bottleneck fairly early on in the game. As you begin to climb tiers, you run out of money. So a lot of people buy the premium tanks to be able to kind of increase their credit gain, which is fine. I mean, that's really what they're designed for. The other option, or the other thing they do for you, is you can accelerate crew training on these crew members or anything that drives in a premium tank. So the first thing is, like, let's say you're going down the Russian line and you have somebody that's in a KV1. You have some crew that's in a KV1 that you've kept, or that's over 100%, let's just say. You can drop them from your KV1 tank into your premium tank, and you don't have to spend any gold for the crew for that tank. So what it does, it helps train them for the KV1. They don't take any penalties, and it builds up the skill set of the KV1 while still earning you additional credits. So that's the concept behind them. So I would recommend this after you've gotten your bearings and you decide you want to invest a little bit of money in the game. And then the first premium tank I'd probably tell you to try is not the most forgiving, but it's probably going to suit your play style the most as a newer player. You're probably over aggressive, and you do want to correct that, but in the meantime, this is a tank that at least would fit your playstyle until you learn the game a little bit. So I'm going to recommend the Churchill 3, which is this tank right here, as really the tank to kind of start with. Now the frontal armor isn't very good, so when you play the tank, you need to kind of side scrape and point your side. Now obviously you got some weak spots here, but if you're pointing your side to the enemy, you're more likely to hopefully be tracked, which won't damage your tank too badly. But the frontal space here doesn't have very good armor. What is good with the tank is the DPM that it does, and it's got a high health pool, really. So you can kind of shoot almost like it's an autoloader with this tank. And I've really had a lot of fun with it. Some of the premiums I've bought have been miserable. I'm looking at UT14. And it's not that they're terrible tanks, but they can be difficult to play. And I think this is one that you can pick up and play, especially if you have another person who's driving a Churchill with you. You guys just stay together and really just bully your way across the map is the concept. You don't want to try and play peekaboo with this. You're just going to push, 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 and really out DPM almost everything, utilizing your HP to your advantage, and try and side scrape where necessary and angle your tank a little bit so that you cover your weak spots right here in the front. As far as the equipment you want to run with it, I would say obviously gun rammer, gun laying drive. I'm using a toolbox, but I'd recommend vents once you get the crew where you need it to be. Until then, I mean, there's a lot of different things you could take, but realistically, you're probably going to be running gun rammer, gun laying drive, and vents as really the best option. I really don't find I get ammo rack too much in this tank, but it might just be the playstyle that I use. But I do feel that this is probably one of the best tanks to buy as a premium. Stay away from the tier 8 stuff until you're a little bit older and more experienced, and even then, sometimes just playing tier 8 can be super frustrating, especially if you don't get preferred matchmaking with the premium tanks, because they get outperformed a lot of times. So in looking at the tank overall, my recommendation for as you begin to use crew skills with some of your heavies, if we look at your personnel file, so this is a mistake I made. One thing I really want to point out. So I picked 6th Sense because I think it's a really good crew skill. Well, I did this when I first started playing the game. So what I did, you can see how this is shadowed out here. So if you're a newer player, you may not know why that is or why it's important. So what this is, 6th Sense is a perk. So it doesn't work until it gets to 100%. So that was a big mistake I made. What I should have done probably is take any of these abilities that are skills. See that one, how that one says skill, Jack of all trades. Recon's a skill, Mentor's a skill. Taking a skill instead, and usually you would take repairs as a heavy tank operator in almost all trees. Not necessarily all of them, but I probably would have been better off to start with repairs, which would have came into effect right away like I did with the rest of them. But I was stupid, I made a mistake, and now the only way to reset these is to pay either 20,000 and bring him back to 90%, which means he'll have limited effectiveness and it'll cost me a ton of games to get back there, or to pay gold. So I haven't done it yet just because I don't want to pay the gold. So the other ones I'd recommend first is repairs. Now once you get these to 100%, what I'd recommend doing is going back like I just showed you and resetting the skills. Let's say you're going to do this and reset it to 100%. What that means is repairs falls off, then you can pick a perk. So for your commander, you'd want to pick 6th Sense, let's say. And then you may want to pick Deadeye or Snapshot with this gun because you do a ton of turret movement because you're using multiple targets a lot because of how fast you're shooting. And then you can pick repairs again. And then you go back, and it's almost like in an MMO where you reset your talent points. That's all you're really doing. But it's either going to cost you gold or it'll cost you 20,000 silver and you're taking a little bit of a step back. But it's always worth it to reset those crew skills. So as you go through here and look, there's a lot of different ones you can take, but the main thing I wanted to get across was you really want to make sure that you're resetting the skills when it comes to that, and make sure you're picking a skill and not a perk right away. Now once it gets to 100%, you can pick a perk after you reset and it will be completely enabled. So safe stowage is what you'd want to pick on your loader. That's pretty standard, I would say. On your radio operator, what you typically want to pick on a lighter tank would be like situational awareness. For this one, you're really probably going to stick with repairs. And the first time you reset, you have the option that you'd go Brothers in Arms on all these guys. So let me show you that real quick while I'm going through here. So let's say we get to 100%. I'm kind of starting all over, so I apologize. So let's say we get to 100% on this and reset. What you can do is Brothers in Arms, which would, but in order to get Brothers in Arms to work, every single member of the crew has to have Brothers in Arms. So everybody would get Brothers in Arms, and then you go back and do all repairs again, and then you could reset it and then get Brothers in Arms, and then all of your specific abilities like safe stowage here, maybe situational awareness here. On your driver, you probably want clutch braking or off-road driving. When you go to your gunner, you're probably going to want to choose either snapshot or deadeye. Probably more snapshot with this particular tank. But I will tell you that's a ton of games, so plan accordingly. So I do think that Churchill's a really fun tank to play when you're a newer player, but I did kind of want to talk a little bit about the crew skills to give you guys an idea on what you'd be looking at as well. So if you are going to invest in it, dollar per dollar, it's only $10, right around $10, I should say, American, just depending on when you buy it and if there's a special. But I do think it's a really fun tank to play that can be fairly forgiving for newer players and gives you an opportunity to earn some additional credits. And you're still in a low enough tier where you aren't going to be overmatched. You may still be overmatched, but as far as skill wise, but you at least give your team a chance to win, and you aren't as much of a hindrance with this tank. So with that, thanks for watching very much. Hopefully this has helped you if you're a newer player and you're looking at the best premium tank really to buy if you're a beginner and you're going down the Russian line. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you want to see in the comments if you have any questions or anything. If you're a new player, I should be able to help you a little bit, or at least point you in the right direction for a resource. Thanks.